are live.
Woo.
Happy Easter if you celebrate that sort of thing. As you can tell, we do. Even with social distancing, I hope you had a happy holiday if you celebrate it. Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
And I'm Sub-Zero, and I shall trade you Outworld to fight Corona. Not as I'm co-host Ian.
I'm just your co-host.
This podcast was created to provide you, our heroes, with new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Whoa.
Sorry, I blame Facebook.
Thank you.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but neither is our D&D games.
Finish him. So before we go any farther with anything, Ian, what the hell?
Hey, you have a 3D printer? You have fun with it. If
Yes.
you're wearing masks, might as well have fun with it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you actually went to the grocery store like that?
Yep.
I bet
I'm
you were
pretty sure.
bet you were the baddest ass motherfucker there, huh?
Actually, most people didn't really seem to notice.
Or they
There's so many people wearing masks that they don't get a second thought
kind of just
anymore.
fit right in, huh?
Oh.
I did get a couple knowing nods here and there, but other than that.
I was waiting for a guy yelling, "Get over here!"
Stay over there.
Stay over there.
That's even better. Oh my god. Well, it's very cool that you are dressed up as Sub-Zero. It is muffled, so when we get into the main stuff, that would be great if it came off, because we would like to see
That was
your
the plan.
beautiful face.
That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I am really excited for today's episode, as every episode, because honestly, it's my show. Why wouldn't I be excited?
I would hope so, yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Forgotten Realms locations that deserve to be visited. But before we get into that, if you enjoy our show and you want to support us, head on over to critacademy.com, check out our Patreon page, maybe pick up some of our best-selling supplements, or just subscribe to our newsletter to be entered to win Fat Loots every week. Just so you guys know, our first adventure, The Dark Tides of Damodan, releases this Wednesday, April 15th on DM's Guild. So I am super excited for that. A lot of work went into it, and we've been talking about it for years. So I'm happy to see it finally be released. So keep an eye out for that. Once again, if you want to try something different and something dangerous, this is an underwater rescue adventure. So I'm super excited. I know
Definitely dangerous.
Yeah.
I can definitely concur with that. That is... Whew.
I think out of 8 runs, there was 2 TPKs. Because
That's pretty high.
yeah, it is. But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's a rescue mission, not a slay mission, which if you try to fight everything, which some people do, it becomes too taxing on the party. But that's part of it, right? So anyways, so I'm super excited for that and everything else we got going on. We hope you all are keeping a safe distance like we are. Stay over there, as Sub-Zero said. That being said, Crit Nation, thank you so much for joining us here today at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your roles don't matter.
Yep, that's right. Your worlds are like a world without memorable locations, which honestly, if your world doesn't have any memorable locations, that's not really a world. That's just
That's a board game.
Yeah, that's a board game.
So for our Let's Talk About Blank segment, holy crap. So with all the pandemic and all the virus stuff going on, Wizards has heard your plea. And to my understanding, there is a link to an article in our show notes. You can find that at critacademy.com. Just go into the blog section. And if Ian, if you want to post it into the Twitch chat, that would be great. D&D has been releasing, LotsE has been releasing content for free, adventures for you to run. Like, and these are some really, really good adventures. I know just recently we covered a freebie from the Critical Role team
Yeah, we
but
did. I remember that. Yep.
but they've been adding not only adventures from like the Lost Mines of Phandelver and stuff that ties into that to other adventures that tie into Ghosts of Salt Marsh and Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus and just all kinds of really cool content in PDF form. But you can also access the stuff via Roll20 Fantasy Ground and D&D Beyond. For instance, the PDF for Secrets of Sokol Keep, an adventure previously only available in organized play, is now released. That's basically an organized Adventures League module that now is available for free. And they
Yeah.
are continuing to toss this stuff out of there. So, what do you guys think about that?
Free
It-
stuff is always a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, and even as like a company standpoint, like that's not a bad move either, right? Because
Right.
that means it's more publicity. They're putting themselves in good light. It really is just like a like yeah, they're putting out content, sure, and they're not obviously getting paid for it, but like they're going to be more inclined to get more things, right?
Right.
They're going to be more inclined to buy. Oh wow, like, I'll get myself some official D&D dice or something, or maybe I'll go get the player's handbook, or maybe stuff like that. And obviously that will add up. So
Yeah. And
Dice, baby.
I have a lot of dice. I have a lot of dice.
So
Pardon me, number of us make clack clack noises.
the other thing I think that makes it interesting is if you want to extend your reach to more people, when they're stuck at home is the best time to escape into a world of fantasy. Because you can get claustrophobic pretty bad if you're just stuck at home, you're not going anywhere. So
Hmm.
it's a great way to reach potentially a new audience of people who may have not had time because of working 2, 3 jobs to pay the bills or some other stuff like
Right.
that. So, um, Steve actually has a good point. He says we'll remember the companies that were so charitable during this. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
And we'll also remember the companies that were douchebags during this too, for that matter.
Sub Zero is also right. So that's a pretty short Let's Talk About Blink, but I thought it was an awesome resource for you guys to really dip your hands into. Download that stuff right now because it's not going to stay free forever. And every week I think they're releasing different things, so save them into a Google Drive or something so you have them for later. Even if you're running a different campaign right now, go and get that stuff for ideas or one shots or whatever. So
Yeah, for sure.
yep. Do you guys any other points on that?
Kind of just like what you said, like you can even like use these. You don't have to like use them word for word, right? You can always use it for like more homebrew ideas, or maybe you can mod it up a little bit so you can make it more geared towards the world you want to create.
Right,
Which,
right.
funny enough, we're going to be talking about stuff that goes into a world. So,
Yes.
Springboard to go off of.
For sure. So that'll do it for our Let's Talk About Blank segment. Make sure to check out all the free content D&D is giving away. Before we move on to our main topic, Austin, we have a gift to give away, don't we?
yes, we do. We have the Loresmith Modular Dungeon Tiles, the Arcania set. Now, these are like an easy way to create your own beautiful digital maps. The Arcania lets you make dark, shadowy dungeon maps, like rich with the fumes of arcane secrets. So, on one hand, you might find a lich. That's not good. But on the other hand, hey, there might be a Vorpal sword. So, hey, that's really good.
I think I've mentioned this before, and even if you don't use digital terrain, you can print this stuff out onto like pieces of cardboard and move them around and make a new dungeon with this theme every time you need a magical dungeon or castle or tower or something like that, which I think is great.
It's just kind of funny you mentioned that because I remember I went to a Humble Bundle earlier this week, bought a crap ton of dungeon terrain they can 3D print for $15, and people have pointed out this terrain costs hundreds of dollars normally, and some of the stuff that packs include stuff you can print out in cardstock and fold into buildings. So,
oh man, paper towers.
There you go.
Love it.
Like, you can do some really fun. So it almost kind of reminds me of like I know it's kind of off topic, but like that Warhammer 40K like stuff where you can go to like any like the hobby shops and like they have all those like buildings and stuff. I'm like, those look so cool.
or any other hobby shop that sell like trains or something like that too.
Right. So anyway,
Not exactly. I'm rolling away. Who is our winner today, Ian?
Oh, let's see here. Our winner today is Remley Far.
Woo!
Congratulations, Remley Far.
Congratulations. Now, I actually know Remley Far, and if you've purchased any of the content that our boy Jeff Stevens puts out, you'll see Remley Farr's name right next to it a lot of times, especially in one of my favorites is Happy Jack's Funhouse. He actually helped write that stuff. What a great writer. Check out his stuff. If you didn't win, have no fear. Crit Academy is here. Head on over to critacademy.com/LoreSmith. Not only get a free set of digital terrain, but also some one-page adventures and some other really cool stuff. So check that stuff out. LoreSmith's got a lot of cool stuff going on. They just launched their Kickstarter a few days ago and already hit their goal for heroic challenges, which I think is really cool. They're basically one of my that does a lot of things, but there's something I really want to talk about really quick. So I'm gonna give LoreSmith a plug for a little bit. So did you guys ever play Fable?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the original Fable, you could go up onto this tower in this podium and accept challenges. I'm going to do this fight naked. I'm going to do this fight barefisted. I'm going to do this encounter blah, right?
Right,
so you put bears on your fists?
Yes. Yes. At 100% yes. I would love that. I'm going to put 2 whole ass bears on my hands. I'm going to punch somebody to death. Anyway.
I regret nothing.
Okay, then. Yes. Anyways, so is one bear a black bear and one a white bear so you can make your enemy black and white? Or
why can't it just be 2 brown bears?
Alright, never mind. Anyways, so basically you could there's a deck for DMs and deck for players, but in some of the players ones you basically can draw a random challenge that makes the encounters you're going through extra hard for extra rewards, which I thought was really cool. A great idea. So make sure to check that out. He's kickstarting that right now. So
sounds like side missions in like any RPG, right?
It's very much like that. And it does a lot more than that. That was just the one thing that I thought was so cool as a player to challenge yourself. Because we all got these people who like to optimize. What about the polearm master with the sentinel feet? What if he draws one and it says you can't use a weapon? Well, better get creative.
Yeah, better put that away and pull out those guns because we got a good strength mod.
Right. So congratulations, Remley Far. If you enjoy the product, please let LoreSmith know. That being said, on to our main topic today: Forgotten Realms locations that deserve to be visited. Now, I found this article you can find from GameRant.com from Glenn Carreau, I think. Ian, if you would share that in the chat, that would be super awesome. Honestly, there's a lot of locations in Forgotten Realms, and one thing I've learned over the years is that a lot of people homebrew their games. And while I think there's nothing wrong with that, I do believe that you're missing out on a few really cool things when you do that. Not that a DM isn't super creative and come up with these cool things, but there's just, you've got dozens of years tossed into. I don't know when did Forgotten Realms come out, in the 70s?
I couldn't tell you.
I mean, you've got so much.
I know it's fairly old.
Time that has gone into this development that has flushed this world out in such a way that there has just been some really cool shit that's come from it.
Absolutely.
And so even if you don't live in Forgotten Realms, consider tossing some of these areas in, even if you call it something different, just because the amount of work that goes into it is already done for you.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And since you're homebrewing, if you have to change a few things to fit, that's fine.
According to Wikipedia, the first official Forgotten Realms products were released in 1987 for D&D.
There you go. Ed Greenwood, right? He's the writer, I think, right?
Although he apparently first created it back in 1967 as a saying for childhood stories, but...
Okay.
Huh, okay.
That's interesting.
According to Wikipedia, at least.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
everything on the internet's true. Anyways, so we're gonna go through this article and kind of touch on the things that they picked up on, and then we're gonna add our kind of our own thoughts to it, as well as we've picked a couple places that we think really need to be visited. Ian, would you like to tell us about the first location that in Forgotten Realms that deserves to be visited?
Icewind Dale. One
Yes.
way, which, by the way, there's at least 2 video games with that name set
Mm-hmm.
over here. One way to get players invested in their D&D campaign is there's a spelling error there. To bring them to a
Jesus,
place they
dude.
already recognize from other D&D related media. Case in point, Icewind Dale. It's famously the surface world homeland of Dritz, the drow folklore hero of Faerun, and the main setting for the popular Icewind Dale video game series. I just said that, cool. Using the logic, Baldur's Gate would also apply, but that city already has a place in the official 5th edition source books.
Which doesn't mean you shouldn't visit it anyway, because Baldur's Gate is actually crazy.
Right now,
Yeah.
I kind of want to touch that, and I kind of skipped this. Most of the areas that were skipped were the big areas: Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate.
Right.
Because if you're in Forgotten Realms, you're probably going to visit those anyway.
At some
Um,
point.
So, kind of to reiterate, I've been pushing through the Drizzt Do'Urden series. I think I'm on book 9 now, and I absolutely love the entire adventures that undergo through Icewind Dale. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but didn't you tell me that in the pre-play playtest of 5th edition, it took place in Icewind Dale, or there's an adventure for it?
That wasn't me who
Okay.
said that.
I believe somebody told me that, and
I don't know.
whether it's accurate or not, I don't know. But I do think the new the adventure that we ran with the Giants, damn it, what's it called?
From King's Thunder.
Storm King's Thunder takes you up towards that way quite a bit. So,
Yep.
I think this is a great way because it does one important thing that changes how the campaign needs to be ran. The first one is the environment.
Hmm.
It's fucking ice cold and it's torturous and it's a tundra, and all those things come with challenges that as a DM, if you like that survival feeling, you want them to feel every step through 4 foot of snow and across ice, and that's the way to do it. Especially if you're like me, I was a Star Wars fan. It's basically Hoth, right? Hoth is this area, so you can do the whole, making them have to not find shelter and there's a blizzard, so they got to cut open a bear and crawl inside it to stay lukewarm, right?
Buh. Buh. Gotta
um,
fight a bugbear just to live inside it for a night.
um,
I'll pass. I'll freeze to death. That might be easier.
but because of the fact that Icewind Dale has games and stuff about it as well, it's also a place that many D&D players would like to visit because they've played through those games or they've read those stories. So
It would also be like fun just to kind of like go through this like mountain, right? Just to find some shelter, and you find this being that's happening to live there, and you're like, this was a terrible idea. Now you thought you were resting for the night. Now you're gonna suffer a level of exhaustion.
which I am a big fan of, as you guys know.
Hey man, I understand. It's sometimes you like. It's weird because it's almost like sometimes we don't have the option to rest, because if we do, like, what the fuck is gonna happen? So you
And
always feel this like pressure to keep on pushing anyway.
I mean, you can always stop, but there's always going to be penalties generally.
Right.
And that to me is something that Icewind Dale does well, because you're traveling across the tundra. You're not going next door. I mean, there are far distances through this. So if you arrive and a village is under attack, you're exhausted out of your shit because of the ice cold weather. So how is that going to affect your game? So
Right.
all right, Austin, would you like to tell us about the next location that deserves to be visited?
Absolutely. The next one looks like Zentail Keep. It's like a notorious city in the Moonsea region. Once the main base of operations for the Zentarum organization, which, if you don't know anything about them, they are ruthless bastards.
Yeah.
Before being raised in retaliation in the 14th century of Faerun's history. As a 5th edition, Zentail Keep has been retaken by the Zentarum, leaving the city's few surviving unaffiliated inhabitants to try and withstand its dangers as best they could. Like I said, they're ruthless. While all the others who tried to return to the city after its retaking were pretty much turned away. This means Zentil Keep stands, but it is far from the bustling city it once was in previous editions of D&D. For parties affiliated with the Zentarum, Zentil's Keep could be the start of an adventure, or for parties opposing the Nefarious Zentarum, the city could very well turn into a battleground, or possibly its final destination. I don't know. Maybe you're looking for the Zentarum head or something, and you're like, I gotta get this guy because he killed my parents. That's a typical rogue thing. Sure.
The one reason I really like this is because this is a city much like Baldur's Gate, where at least Baldur's Gate has some semblance of like militia, but in Zentil Keep, everyone's a dirty bastard and they're trying to kill somebody else. So
Yeah.
if I want to run an evil campaign, this I think would be a great place to start because everyone's trying to stab everyone else.
We should
Um,
totally run an evil campaign. Well, Matt, I guess would never play it. Now that I think
no,
about
I
it.
don't
Well,
think he would.
Some
Yeah.
people are playing an evil character in Brandon's game, so
um but not only that, visiting this location creates an interesting dynamic because all the players, let's say they're a good party, the traditional adventure, they show up
Mhm.
here and they're being offered jobs and stuff. But as a DM, every single job can have a secondary motive. It can be a way to pit other people in the town against each other, and it can be this hostile environment without it being like the more traditional you're getting fight. You would have to, you could poison your players, you could burn down the inns that they're in, you can have them attacked in the
You could
middle
do
of their
some
sleep. I mean,
crazy stuff. Oh man, pretty much just like imagine like a true anarchy like town, right? Like it's just people don't care because there's no repercussions, right? Except
right.
for just trying to survive. They can go out and just well, that guy was stepped in my lawn one day. I'm gonna set fire to his house.
Now, what's cool about this too is you can use it to create a level of paranoia. If you guys get up and we go downstairs and we get something to eat and one of your guys starts to get sick, oh, he was poisoned. So how are they going to proceed every other morning after that? Are they going to come up with a ritual to check their food? Or are they
That
just
would
going to
be
hope for
crazy.
the way? You can paranoia your players by being in Zentil Keep with all the dark Zentarum. Or my personal favorite is use the Zentarum as a tool to bring the players to their side of thinking. Because in most cases, the evil guy doesn't think they're necessarily doing anything wrong, not all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And they could be put into a situation where they're just trying to convince the player, hey, this is the right thing to do. Hey, there's a war between an orc tribe and an elven tribe, and the elves, they're terrible, they're brutish, and they would set something up to help reinforce that idea, and the players be like, oh man, these are some bad elves, we need to go, whack some motherfucker.
yeah,
Yeah.
those rails are being racist, and they deem the orcs as barbarians, and they're trying to purge you. We must protect our orc brothers.
Right. And in an area that's surrounded by people whose perception is not always what I'm doing is wrong, they can use cheap tricks and stuff to manipulate the players, which is something my dice are trembling right now with
Yeah.
excitement because I love manipulation.
Actually, I remember in my Saturday game, we just wrapped up the one of the first two adventures, Rise of Tiamat,
Hmm.
and we were trying to raise an army to fight the dragon cultists. And my cleric, who was a forge of the Forge domain, who worshipped Morden, the dwarven god of the Forge, went to the dwarf temple in Baldur's Gate. It's like, hey guys, we're trying to raise an army. Can you convince our dwarf brothers to attack? Nah, they're just cults. We don't care. They get me. They got fire drives with them.
Holy shit.
And the right. So I use casual racism to get the dwarves to go murder some fire giants for us.
Casual racism is apparently okay.
Because dwarves hate fire giants in particular with a passion. So,
Right. So I think Zentil Keep is definitely a place worth visiting.
Mhm.
Um,
Especially if you just want something chaotic, right?
Yes.
You just want something just
Yeah.
maddening, all sorts of mayhem. That's the one.
Yeah.
Also, sign up for Eagle campaigns. Just I know there's a stereotype for good reason that people think if you run the Eagle campaign, it's gonna be all chaos. No, you guys could have an established order of things of goals you want done. Like, a friend of mine talked about like he knew somebody. He's like, I want to run an Eagle campaign, but I'm not sure how to do it because I want the players to kill each other. What's it going for me to learn to get them to cooperate with each other? Pulls my book. Here we go. History of the Nazi Party.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Moving on. So Steve actually says paranoia in our 5e101 session yesterday. I went over exhaustion rules with my players. They spent the rest of the night avoiding actions that might give them a level. That sounds like you'd fit right in my table there, Steve. So
Holy cow.
the next location is the Lost Empires. Now, if you don't know, the Lost Empires are an interesting element to the Forgotten Realms campaign because in the currently established empires aren't really set up right next to them. They're generally set up, right over the top of the Lost Empire's ruins, right? So any DM looking to, trap their players lost in some long abandoned, probably cursed ruins, can take a look at the fallen civilizations of Faerun's past. Lots of seasoned DMs have likely heard of Netheril, the civilizations whose downfall was just hubris. It brought crashing to the sands of Anarok Desert when its own use of magic caused magic to disappear entirely. Poof! An adventure that could easily turn into a Netherese treasure hunt or another such scenario. And it's also just a great excuse to explore the dangers and mysterious Anarok. Now, I don't know if I'm saying that right, whatever. There's also other lost empires like Erlin, right? The Elven civilization, once in the High Forest, or Cormishan, the predecessor to Kalmashan. For those wanting to stay a little closer to well-documented present-day societies, there's the Grand Elven Kingdoms in Illifarn, the capital city once located right where the lands around Waterdeep now stand. So I like this one in particular because you're not looking at the way the world is now, but maybe the way the world was 1,000 years ago, and you can start pulling up things that, for instance, that existed in previous D&D editions, right? Because they, to my understanding, they all happen at different time periods, right? So if there's monsters that are in the older editions that aren't in the newer ones, and you send your players delving deep into this area, how about the Elven Illifarn area that is where Waterdeep's area now is? What do they find in there, and how does that connect? And if they find it, how do the elves treat that? Do they want to now turn into like a museum and say that's our shit, we're coming to get it all? If you like lore players and an explorer player, or if you have lore heavy and explorer heavy players, the Lost Empires of the past in your current campaign is a great way to feed them that exploration and that lore. What do you guys think?
It belongs in the museum.
You could also make it so like maybe the elves didn't want it to be like turned up. Maybe it's lost and they want it to stay lost. Like maybe they did something really bad. Maybe they were
like that.
racist against dwarves and they tried to slaughter a whole bunch of dwarves and they're like, yeah, we don't want to. We're trying to be chill now. We're trying to be good people.
Yeah, it turns out. Yeah, I love that. It turns out they did something just terrible and are trying to hide it. Maybe its fall was from something they did. Very much like. Well, I don't want to. I almost gave away something. I shouldn't. I gotta keep a lid on it. Anyways,
maybe they want accidentally summon the devil, and they're like, "Oh well, we screwed up. Now we actually killed all the dwarves, and now the devil's gonna kill us, and that's how the empire fell, or something."
Do you know what comes to mind to me? Did you guys ever watch the anime Full Metal Alchemist?
Yep.
There is a city in there that essentially wiped out all living creatures there for one singular purpose: to make a magic item. So what if that city, their dark secret is somebody high up sacrificed under a giant ritual the entire city, caused it to collapse to create one magical item, and some bastard enemy has found it. And the elves are getting involved, and your party's involved in trying to hide it. I love it. Oh
That'd
my
be cool.
gosh. That would be really cool. So,
And then my character Zorax would stab the guy, take the magic item, and he'd be like, "Ha! Now I'm the powerful one.
No, I'm the king.
Now I'm king."
I'll tell you what, I just started watching Fate Zero.
Good choice.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to watch them in order, not
That
the
series is
terrible one that they did, but
Yeah, watching them in order other than Fate Zero first is practically impossible.
yeah, I had to Google to figure out the order. But anyways, in that, there's a
I'll branch
lot
timelines
of
into that, so
there's a lot of talk of what happened in the past and how it correlates to the future and everything like that. And it's just awesome. Austin, would you like to tell us about our or not? Yeah, Austin, go ahead. Would you like to tell us about our next location that deserves to be visited?
I don't know how to pronounce this at all, so I'm just gonna take the biggest guess. It looks like
That's what I would say.
and then it says in parentheses here Afkatla. I guess
I think that's the
Uh,
old name in the previous edition.
maybe that's the old game. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
So if you remember the aforementioned Baldur's Gate game, well, the actual city of Baldur's Gate is covered, but not every area explored in the series is. The land south of the Sword Coast, Amn, is the setting for Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Amn, arguably the best of Baldur's Gate trilogy, apparently. So I don't know. I can't confirm nor deny.
Good
Apparently
stuff.
he's confirming.
Good stuff.
And it's ripe for exploration in a homebrew adventure. In previous editions, Am's capital city of Afkatla, so that's the capital city apparently, had actually banned the use of magic without a license, which could give adventuring parties with arcane practitioners quite the challenge. It's a city even larger than the northern Baldur's Gate, wealthy but corrupt and perfect for political intrigue or encounters with the city's seedy underbelly run by the Shadow Thieves. Now, I actually like this a lot. I like the idea where magic is kind of prohibited, and you have to have like this license to be able to use it, right? So, what the players could do is maybe they'll try it legitimately. Maybe they'll try and find themselves a license. How do they figure out if they've used magic wrongly or used magic without a license? That would be also interesting. Maybe there's like a giant like scrying orb styled spell or something that all the police have. That would be interesting. Or like maybe it's like magic residue and someone can see it or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, I like the whole idea. One of my favorite games was the shit Dragon Age Inquisition, right? And there's a lot of that where magic is very it's very controlled. Well, Dragon Age anyway. I think a lot of that magic is very strictly under
From
the
what I
watch
remember-
of the what's the name of that stupid group of douchebags?
I don't remember that. It's been a long time.
I played a mage and everyone was a dickhead. I don't remember what it was called.
I just know that,
Chantry?
yeah.
The Chantry.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
In having a world where magic is, or even just a small area of it where your players now have to be careful when they use magic because not just one person's going to have a problem with it, but an entire maybe militia or army is going to come hunting you down now, where the simplest spell is forbidden. In the podcast God's Fall, there's a lot of that where magic has been forbidden. There's an entire cleric paladin sort of group that goes out and hunts down magical items and people with magic and basically, you know, and go ahead.
Also, kind of reminds me of, just because I've been trying to read up on the lore of this, but in the Warhammer 40k universe, where they banned psychers, aka psychics, aka mages, because any magic essentially comes from the realm of chaos, which is also where the demons live. So using magic basically powers them up. So they basically banned the use of psychic energy for a long period of time, but then the demons broke out because they got more powerful, and they discovered like, oh, it's like psychic energy is the only way to fight these things, really. So we need to bring back that thing we banned for thousands of years. So
I think it happens a lot in the whole premise of Divinity Original Sin is very similar. People that can access the sword are bound into collars, and their power is suppressed because people are afraid of power. It's essentially giving people bazookas and letting them walk around, you know. So
Kind of makes sense.
This to me is just a fantastic setting. But you know what I think would make it perfect? To find out that all the people that are like the leaders and everything had some sort of magic that they use to either extend their life or to help them control and manipulate others. Because who doesn't love hypocrisy, right? Hey,
Mhm.
we're banishing magic except for all of our knights carry magical weapons, you know?
Right.
So, do you guys I keep going to anime and stuff cuz I've been watching a lot of that while I've been working, and I'm going through the Seven Deadly Sins, and there's a group of heroes in that who are all about, they're the good guys, but in actuality, they're worse
Yeah.
than any
They're
bad guys.
yeah, they're kind of really awful.
Right. Ian, would you like to tell us about the next location?
The Feywild isn't in Faerun, but it's Faerun adjacent. Along with the plane of Shadow, the Feywild is a plane that echoes the Prime material. That means the Feywild is much more connected to Faerun than other planes. So an adventure player could just find themselves falling into a pond and coming out in the homeland of the Fae. Yeah, that could ruin somebody's day. Designing a campaign in the Feywild would be an interesting method of changing the rules of the world without actually changing campaign settings.
Mm-hmm.
The Feywild is a land governed by emotion, inhabited almost exclusively by fey creatures like pixies, gnomes, dryads, hags, eladrin, and so forth. Time passes differently there as well, and the forests themselves are magical and almost self-aware, and it's entirely possible for those who return from the Feywild to completely forget their trip upon leaving.
Really? So like they can experience all the Feywild, and then when they come back to the material plane, they actually forget everything?
We did a
Oh,
thing.
man.
Yeah.
I just don't know what that thing is.
I use this technique in fourth edition, where I wanted the players and their characters to experience the results of their actions. So they had a choice after they made a decision and ended up leading them to the Feywild. When they came out of the Feywild, 50 years had passed, and the guy that they failed to stop now controls everything. Think Genghis Khan, right? He basically took
Yeah.
everything because of an action they chose to do. And now they got to literally live through the results of their decision, which now means this corrupt man has taken over everything. Everything's run by brute force and violence, and there was no heroes weren't allowed, right? Everything was left to the Silver Hands, which was basically the entire like military, right? There wasn't any vigilante. That vigilanteism became illegal and was punishable by death. Everything was controlled by these guys. Good news is less crime. Bad news is everyone was pretty much a captive slave on a grand scale, and it was their fault. And because they went to the Feywild, they were there for like 5 hours, but it turned out to be like 50 years. Um,
That is interesting.
so
What would be even cooler about that too is you could even make some stuff work. So like you said, 50 years had passed. What if there's like new technology, right? I
right.
mean, what if there's now like before maybe there wasn't so many like, magically inclined items, but now they have these like guys who have like repeating crossbows and stuff. Like they don't have to like worry about reloading, and it fires like they could just like put in this gem and it's like, haha, now it shoots lightning bolts and you're gonna die.
That's actually a really good example because you can easily leverage that time pass as well. That hey, maybe you're in the future and now you can bring in ultra modern if you're into that. Your heroes now
I haven't really thought about that.
can be in this new world with a whole new set of rules and a whole new. Now they still got their magic, they still got their skill sets, but now you've just tossed in some new player options for them and some enemies they have no idea to deal with. I think for me, that's a great way to deal with a high level party because even at
I
level. Go ahead.
I hope you do this now for Descent and Avernus. Hold on, no, let me explain. So I know we're off on a huge tangent now about Ultramodern, but I would love to see our characters like Chiron, Zorax, Merle. I'd love to see them all after they come out of Avernus. They're just like, well, if hold on, let me use if we come out of Avernus. let's be real with that first. And they just suddenly it is ultra modern, and we're sitting here with like swords and shields and shit, and we're like, the fuck is that? Is that what is this? And it's a fucking car going by, and we're just like, is that a dragon? I don't know. It's not a dragon I've ever seen before.
Fire-breathing elephant.
Oh Jesus.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think you guys were there for that in
No,
fourth
we were.
edition. I think
What?
we've talked about it. I don't
talked
think you
about
were in the game. The
Yeah.
fire-breathing elephant basically was a tank that ended up crossing
Yeah.
through a rift into Forgotten Realms and was steamrolling everything and blowing it up. So
That
this,
would be fun and interesting.
yeah. And the other cool thing about Feywild is you can get away with completely changing the world to any setting, any form, right? The Feywild is shaped and twisted by all these creatures, these magical creatures. So the grand scheme, like one of the things I envision Feywild really taking part of is like seeing giant kaiju battles, right? You don't expect that in Forgotten Realms. Yeah, there's a few Tarrasques running, a Tarrasque running around, maybe a Kraken somewhere in the water, but that's not normal. But in the Feywild, that shit can happen all the time. Do you ever watch in Naruto? You get the two giant Jinchuriki fighting Naruto's Ninetales and the stupid sand guy, and they're fighting, and it's wrecking the entire area around you.
It's a good
But
thing they were conveniently far away from any village because
right,
holy shit, they blew up everything.
Yeah. I remember when I cracked open like one of the not the Masum, but one of like the supplemental book for Starfinder, and they showed this like titanic creature in there on this one planet that is known to be extremely territorial and fights other creatures of similar size. It's like I can't help but notice this creature design looks a lot like Eva Unit 1 from Evangelion.
oh, that's awesome.
There's always inspiration somewhere.
Um,
and I don't mean a passing resemblance. It looks like Eva Unit 1.
That's exactly what it. Here's a picture.
Do this.
So so I think that'll do it for the Feywild. You can get away with a lot of stuff because the rules don't have to be the same as Forgotten Realms.
They just simply don't have to apply.
Steve does have a really great point about with time passing. What if you came out and the time difference was so different? What if the weave has changed and it somehow affects the way magic works?
That would be dope.
Maybe, and here, this is just what's going in my mind because of the statement. What if all fire bolts become water bolts? Lightning bolt becomes thunderbolt, where it's no longer lightning, but it's thunder damage that just crackles in a row. Or maybe fireball now is a giant snowball, where you can as a DM go through and totally change the elements and determine them by random. You know what I mean? And I think that would just be that messing with the weave. That could be fun.
Also, you can even make it so like other characters who can like see the weave, right? They can even say like there's something just noticeably different about you, like
Mhm.
not you. Well, physically, yeah. I mean, you're wearing fucking armor, and we're wearing like leather jackets and shit. But like they could just look at you, and like they could just feel that you definitely don't belong here, right? So like, for instance, I'm playing an Azamar. Well, an Azamar from 1,000 years ago could be completely different from one 1,000 years forward, right?
Right.
So the one that's 1,000 years forward might be more geared towards like, yeah, he's kind of like an upstanding guy, but like Zorax is a power-hungry, exploding maniac. So he's just like, I'm constantly emanating this. I'm a ticking time bomb, right? So like that would be just looking at this guy, and he's like, there's something intense about him, 100% of the time. What is his deal?
And actually, what I'd like to kind of touch on that a little bit. The other key thing about the Feywild is that it's run on emotion, right? So,
Oh my god, yeah. So I didn't even think about that.
so you can easily have the player's emotions shaping the world around them. When they get angry, all the trees around them turn red or orange or something like that. Or if they fall in love, butterflies and beautiful critters are flocked to them if they're infatuated with somebody. Something that makes it so you can't hide how you're feeling, I think could be a lot of fun on getting into the minds of the players' feelings a little more than you normally would. Hey, hey, Zorax, what do you think this dryad over here is winking at you a little bit? She's blushing a little bit. She kind of winks at you to kind of come over. How are you feeling? Now you as the
Zorax would probably just be like, I'm married. I'm gonna go this way.
So in that case, all these little flower things that are budding around her start flooding towards you, and they get
And
to
they
you, and
just
they just
wilt.
they wilt and die.
I imagine the driver would be like, "What the fuck? This guy just caused like vegetation to just disappear around him."
I
As
think
a
that's
walk,
fantastic.
that'd be fun. But
So the next location I want to talk about is the World Serpent End. So uh, sometimes a DM may think to themselves, "How do I get my players from one plane to another?" There's no real specified portal in Fifth Edition or anything like that, and or any really indication that the two planes in question ever actually connected to the existing D&D canon. So there's an old location that first appeared in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons called the World Serpent End, and it's a place that exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Um, it's it isn't the only place in the cosmos with infinite doors, but the serpent essentially contains an endless number of labyrinthian hallways filled with portals, basically meaning that the DM uh, who uses it can take freedoms of their campaign anywhere they please, right? Which you can kind of already do that, but there's a place and a story in a world in a location already set for that. So there's story that comes to them. Not only the Forgotten Realms locations, but really any setting you want, right? You create it's a multiverse.
yeah,
To a world with toilet paper.
I mean, yeah. I'm sure there's some pocket dimension where you just go, and I'm standing on a bunch of toilet paper. Literally, it's all around me. How do I get out of here?
I saw a video of a guy that said, "You want to make your neighbors pissed?" And he printed off a bunch of pictures of toilet paper and just stacked it halfway through his windows, so it looks like he's just stockpiling.
That's brilliant.
So according to the lore in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the Faerun entrance is right to the northern side of the city of Arabelle in Cormyr. So this is something that I think is really great because what better way to give your adventure a level of freedom to go realm hopping or world hopping, right? To me, one of my favorite movies growing up was Sliders, where you shift from Earth to Earth, the same Earth, same time, whoa, different results, right? And you can make different choices and different changes by that. They might slide into Faerun one time, and it's more modern, ultra modern. You might slide into it again, and it's more cyberpunk. You might slide into it again, and I keep saying slide, go through another door, hallway, or whatever, and you end up on the fire plane. You might go through it again, and you end up it's basically the same place, but everything's on fire, right?
Airplane would suck.
Well, I think it wouldn't be nearly as bad as the water plane, where you slide through there and you walk in,
I'd say the fire plane is probably debatably worse than Avernus because you're just on fire all the time. Avernus you can at least walk in, right?
Right.
But like the fire plane, you step in, I'm engulfed in flames. I'm on fire until I die.
Burn, baby. Bringing back that Ocarina of Time temple scene. Better get your red tunic now.
You're just like,
I remember one game where we went to the plane of air.
do you
And
just fall eternally?
And my character jokingly went, "Hey, Vegeta, I can fly."
That's funny.
Which is true. You just fall the
Elemental
direction you
planes are
think
scary.
is up or down is how the plane of air works. So
Yeah, so the other thing I think why this is really important is because with the release of with D&D and Wizards of the Coast combining and taking settings from Magic the Gathering that are very well developed and bringing them to D&D, using this location, this World Serpent Inn, could be a connection to Ravnica or to Theros, which is the newest one coming out in June or July.
Could you imagine somebody at like the World Serpent End is like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And you just look at this guy. He's got a weird ceramic cup. It has a handle, and you see a brown liquid in there. Is that
What is
coffee?
that? What is that delicious smell? Cocoa? It's strong. I must taste this thing.
It smells fantastic and bitter.
Turns out that Bourbon Toe isn't actually from Faerun.
Yeah, it's from Ravnica this whole time.
Speaking of anime, makes me think of Restaurant to Another World, where there's this one restaurant that is connected to like a multiverse of doors. And you see a bunch of like fancy creatures walking in there just to eat there.
Is that a bird guy? Well, he does. We don't have those here, do we? He's like, oh no, he came from the other door. That door. You know, the door that no one is supposed to walk through. That door.
I think in Men in Black, you have the scene where Will Smith is going in for the first time, and you see all the aliens walking around. So a cool scene like that in the World Serpent End would be awesome. Just like all kinds of creatures you don't. That guy's made of complete metal, and he talks really weird. And he's got why are his lips made of lights? You know, and it's like a robot with like laser lips or something.
That's funny.
I think that's one of the cooler this of all the options here so far. That was probably my favorite because I had never heard of that. So I'm really excited for that. The one thing that this really brings up to me because there's a camp. If I write another adventure, if let's just say everyone ends up picking up our Dark Tides and it's successful, and I decide to write another adventure, I want to write one that's Carmen Sandiego meets Sliders, and the players have to gather clues and try to track down what's going to be stolen and where this person's at to capture them, not kill them, right? Because that's everyone kills everything, but to capture this person alive. And I think World Serpent End would be a really great like centerpiece for that. Like
you could also make
like
it
the
so
police building or something.
You can't kill them. We have to interrogate them. That's what the spell speak with dead's for. I can't argue against that.
Could you also like use the World Serpent End to go back in time theoretically if you get the right door?
Maybe.
I don't see why not.
Maybe.
Where in the realms is right? Carmen Sandiego? I would need a new name though. I don't think we can use Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
Carmine Zan Diago.
Diago.
Carmine. It's a guy, not a girl. All right. So I actually had some other stuff on here I wanted to talk about, but we're kind of running out of time here. So I'm only going to touch on the one that I thought was interesting. And this is because I have a special place in my heart for the Plague Rot Land, which is basically I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is only a 4th edition thing. I don't know that this has been announced in the 5th edition, but it's basically the Plague Rot Lands is the name given to was once the state of Haurua, and a large area south of Chandel Wood that continues as of 1479 DR, to be racked by the effects of the spell plague. So the spell plague is what messed up everything, right? That's what caused, in the game mechanics wise, that's what caused the difference between 3.5 and 4th edition is this big spell plague. But it's basically a giant scar across the world, and magic doesn't behave normally there. And actually, that was the inspiration for one of the area of effects in our not Forgotten Realms, in our can't remember the name of my own product. Wow, that's way to go, Justin. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
That one.
In Fantastic Terrain, where anytime you cast a spell, it has, additional surprising effects or whatever. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's kind of where the idea of wild magic is a part of it too. Because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think wild magic sorcery was that 1st and 4th edition, or was that in previous editions?
Not sure off the top of my head.
Okay. But I like the idea of having an area where just the characters have to go in, and there is no rhyme or reason to how magic works, so they have to get through fighting somebody that understands it and can manipulate it while fighting in it. And I think that would make for an absolutely amazing campaign and story taking place in the Plague Rot Lands affected by the spell plague. So
I also like how the Order of the Blue Flame travel there in hopes of acquiring a spell scar, and I want to imagine a spell scar is kind of like a dragon mark, where it just kind of enhances you. It looks cool because it's this big old scar across your body or something, but like it's just there and it just enhances you, right?
Yeah. So if I remember right, the spell scar was a way that the people could like modify and warp their spells. God, I don't really remember that. It usually didn't leave like oh, here we go. It says it didn't usually leave like a visible mark, although it appear as it could appear as physical deformities, but it always left a blue flame of some sort on the body of those infected that manifested when the spell scar activated. So creatures that ventured into the plague lands often gain spell scars, although in some isolated cases the spell scar could manifest in people that had never been to the plague land. And you can take that however you want, but basically they were spell scars were charged full of arcane power, and those few who could master them would gain additional special abilities. To me, that's a great setting and story for a sorcerer origin, right? Or
Yeah.
backstory. You weren't a magic user. You stumbled into the plague lands, and poof, you got burned with this power, and now you can tap into this energy you didn't know was there. So
Yeah.
anyways, I think that there's a lot of areas in the world that are Forgotten Realms that deserve to be visited. I do want to give an honorable mention to um, the Yawning Portal. There's an entire book on it. If you haven't picked it up, it is a great place to visit. It basically, I think it's in Baldur's Gate. Is it in Baldur's Gate? I don't remember.
Uh, Dragon.